Bob Sebold, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Eric? Glad to see you.
Looking a little serious there. So, every time I do an interview, I ask the person I'm interviewing to nominate somebody that I need to interview. And somebody nominated you. I think it was Gary Costello, uh, 2009 world champion.
Really?
He came up, 2013 to Raton, and of course they're used to pair firing, right? They always
Yeah.
pair fire over there. And he said, I think he was squatted next to you or pretty close to you, and he said he was on his third record round when you were done.
Okay.
He said, "That Bob Sebold, he was shooting so fast." Um,
I've been known to do that.
I said, "Yep, that's." I said, "Sounds like the condition was mild, so he just rips them down there." So anyway, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into this and all that good stuff? Like, what got you into F class?
Well, I started building what I thought was a prairie dog shooting rifle.
Uh huh.
Turned out to be a 6.5 284, and I run into Scott Liebertraw. I did an appraisal for him, and he was telling me about the range, which was only a short distance from my house, 15 minutes. I had no idea it existed because you can't see it from the road.
Right.
When I found out about that, I was hooked. Prior to that, I was doing a lot of skeet shooting,
Uh huh.
which I like, but my passion has always been rifle. And since I was building an F-class rifle, unbeknownst to me anyway, it was perfect for it. Other than, it being a 6.5 284. But that's kind of how I started. But,
When was this?
that would have been maybe 2006.
Okay, well, at the time, 6.5 was king of the hill anyway.
Right. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so you build that 6.5 You start going to the range. What did you shoot? Were you shooting F class from the get go? Did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
shoot 600 or?
He, as luck would have it, when I did the appraisal for him, it was a couple of days before the Midwest Palma was going to start. And he said, "Well, why don't you come over this week?" And, he told me where it was. And boy, I was over there, Johnny Pronto. It was hotter than blazes out. And I saw a bunch of guys in leather coats. And I said, I got to find out what they're doing because there's no way I'm doing that. And the TR guys, I didn't have a TR gun. I had an open gun. So that's what I started with right away. And I said, I can get a rest. I can get, rear bag and all that stuff. So you start spending all your surplus income and, 5 guns later, here you are.
Right.
You know?
So your first match was long range.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. First match was a Palma, and my goal was not to come in dead last. And thankfully for a buddy of mine, I came in second to dead last. And I learned very quickly that I knew I hated wind. I hated mirage. I had a good shooting gun. I could get an accurate rifle, but boy, don't throw anything in the mix because I was overwhelmed. I couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And for a couple of years, back then there weren't a lot of people that wanted to help, at least in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And I go so far as to say some of them would lie to you on purpose because they didn't want to, teach you too much. It was a whole different atmosphere, and I personally hated that. When I found out about it, I was, I swore I would never do that.
Well, I have a similar story. My first match ever. I asked the guy, we're riding down to the pits, right? And of course, I just shot my first string ever at 1,000 yards with a 300 Winchester Magnum hunting rifle. off of Harris bipod, you know. And
Good F open ring.
right. And I asked him, I said, hey, well, what do you look at? Because I mean, I have no idea. I'm just aiming center, and just if I hit left in the next shot, I kind of click the scope right, and it's not working out at all. And he says, well, just look at the flags and look at the vegetation. I said, well, like all of it, or like, is there a certain spot where I need to be looking? And then he said, look, man, I'm not gonna give you all my secrets. Literally, he said that. The guy with a hunting rifle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And your first match.
Exactly. So, I felt pretty crappy after he said that, but I thought, well, whatever. I'm going to stick to it anyway. And then I started asking other guys, like Mike Downey. He was on the U.S. rifle team, and he took me under his wing. And he pretty much, he would answer. You know how it is. You have a million questions at first, and he would just answer all my questions. And then I same thing. I was like, man, if I ever get any good at this, I'm gonna share everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing. That's always.
Honestly, for a while, there was me and another shooter kind of going head to head, and then pretty soon, as I would do more shooting, I eclipsed him, and I didn't really have any competition, and it wasn't very fun. In the end,
Right.
You go and win a state championship, but big deal. I didn't earn it. It's just that there wasn't anybody there to take it from me. And along the way there, we got a couple other good shooters, and I helped them out right away. Glad to help them. And I've had them both ask me, and I know them both. Bill Kalaji is a good example. Why do you help me? And I'd rather have him beat me fair and square than me beat him just because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. Well, so, and even back then when I started learning and kind of getting a little better and started sharing my information with people, I'd have shooters tell me, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, that you don't share that stuff. You work for that information. Keep it. That's for you to know, and that's it. Nobody else. And I just never agreed with that, because the way I see it, if you and I are operating under the same knowledge, like you and I both have the exact same knowledge of a certain topic, which in this case is F-class, wind, all that stuff, and if I beat you, that means I beat you. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And that's the way I like it. I want to beat somebody. I always say that I want to beat somebody on their best day. I want them to have the absolute best day they've ever had, and I beat them. That's, to me, it's a win. If you beat somebody, it's no different than somebody you beat somebody when they had a equipment failure. Well, you didn't really win. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So you get into F-class, and you have your 6.5 you start to get more serious about it. How long did it take you before you actually started traveling?
2010.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a F-class nationals at Lodi in 2010, and I shot that. That wasn't really traveling, I guess. I like that. And then I think we went down to North Carolina, Camp Butner,
Mm-hmm.
shot there. And I got sick down there. I didn't shoot well, but 2012, I went to Raton and did really well. I ended up second overall.
Mm-hmm.
I was leading for a while, and that was a fun one. But I had already had a couple of state championship wins, and I hadn't won the Midwest Palmer.
So Raton 2012, is that the nationals?
Yeah.
I must have met you then.
Well, yeah, you did because certainly by 2013, I remember you quite a bit.
Yeah, by 2013, because that was the World Championship.
Yes.
So we knew each other by then. So 2012, I'm sure, you started making the rounds kind of on the, what I'm going to call the big stage, right? Where
Yeah.
you go to
Well,
the
I
national.
was still at a master ranking in 2012
People don't
until that.
realize. People don't realize now how hard it was to get a high master ranking back
Oh
then.
yeah.
It was hard. I
Yes, it
mean,
was.
nowadays, I mean, you get a new shooter and you kind of tell them, give them some pointers and give them a good shooting rifle, and a couple of matches they're high master. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
But back then, holy crap, it was hard, man. It was hard to make. I remember that was my first goal, to make high master, and it
Yeah,
took
me too.
It took me a year. I know I got it done in 1 year. I don't know how long it took.
It took me a lot longer than that.
Well, I know, and well, what I was gonna say is, for me, 1 year was a big accomplishment. Like, that was my entire focus, and I got it done in 1 year, and that was like a big accomplishment. And like I said, nowadays, you tell somebody that it took you a year to get high master, or like in your case longer, they wonder why. Like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was the second high master in the state of Wisconsin. So, there was, and nobody got their high master card at Lodi at that time. It just wasn't done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just different times, right? Like nowadays, I've heard people ask, why do we have 800 yards? Like, why do we shoot it? Everybody shoots clean. Everybody shoots clean. I said, well, it wasn't that long ago when nobody would shoot clean at 800.
That's right.
It was hard. I mean, you'd be happy. I remember the highest score I shot at 800 was, I remember when I shot a 148. I was so freaking excited because that was like a super score. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now 148, hell, a 150. If you're not shooting perfect with like 12 or 13 X's, you're not doing very good.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it's changed.
Last Midwest Palma, I shot a clean with I think it was 32 X's. Good enough for third place that day.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's crazy how.
And that was a clean. I remember when Ryan Pierce shot the very first clean on a Palma ever for F class, for F Open. And I was right next to him, and that was a really big deal. And that wasn't that long ago.
No, I remember Ryan. I met Ryan the first time I ever went out of state was to Spirit of America. I think it was 2010, and Ryan Pierce was there. I think he came in second that year. They call him Curly. Oh, Curly, man, Curly, he's shooting well, and Curly. But yeah, Ryan, and then Ryan had a lot of big accomplishments in F class. Like you said, he got the record, and I mean,
I think he set all the junior records when he was young.
I mean, it was something else back then. Like I said, a clean. When I started shooting, the record was a 199.15. Nobody shot cleans.
Right.
I mean, nobody annealed brass. Nobody, nothing. It was crazy back then. Nobody pointed bullets. Nobody just did anything. It was just different times, man. So you go to nationals, 2012. You get second place. All of a sudden, you're pumped, right?
Yeah.
So how did that change your trajectory, I guess?
Well, since then I've had some successes. I got a medal at Worlds in 13, but along with that, you have some lousy matches too. I didn't shoot very good at all at nationals. Shot a lot better at the Worlds in 13 than I did at the nationals. But it's all a learning process, and somewhere along the line there, Earl Liebertrau convinced me I need to learn how to read wind. He was one that actually convinced me I need to start traveling too. He said, you can't shoot, he said, you're shooting great at Lodi, but that doesn't mean that much. You need to get out more. He was right.
Yeah, he's got a ton of knowledge. So obviously, like I said, you start traveling, you start to really find out that, well, I was going to say that you're not that great, but you got second at nationals. So that had to feel good. But all of a sudden, it's so hard to be consistent, isn't it? To be consistently at the top every time.
It is for me. Unless you're Todd Hendricks.
Yeah, unless you're Todd Hendricks, it's really hard. But I mean, it's just hard because something's gonna happen. Something always happens to where, I mean, even a bad puller can drag your score down.
Yeah, I've had targets go down on me and cause problems. Bad pullers. When you shoot up in Canada, there's all kinds of stories about that.
So you go to the Worlds in 2013, and you're shooting for Team Brooks at the time, correct?
Yeah.
So who was on your team?
Pat and Pat Scully. I don't even remember who else. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
Ryan was, and Speedy.
Speedy was on your team.
Yes.
Ryan, you.
Yeah, we had a better team, but
who else was on there? Oh man, that older guy. What was his name?
Oh, Ron Herms. That was.
Herms.
Let me think. No,
that was the world team. Ron Herms was on your team.
Yeah, Ron and Earl.
Yeah, Ron, Earl, you, Ryan Pierce, and Speedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2013.
Yeah, we got 4th place. You guys got 5th.
Yeah.
And you guys had it until, didn't you guys crossfire or something stupid like that? Or you did something. I don't remember. It's incredible how it's not that long ago, but yet we don't really remember anymore. I don't.
Yeah. I think Speedy was on that team too. He was shooting, and Ryan was coaching him, and his setup was falling off the edge of the berm.
Yeah, because Raton has that real loose dirt or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, it was real bad back then.
Yeah,
and
it was just, I mean, you start shooting, and all of a sudden it starts shaking loose, and then before you knew it, you're off that front ledge.
Yeah.
But I mean, so anyway, so you guys are shooting, and we're shooting, but we're kind of, how can I say, like we're just not as close as we are now, right?
Right.
I mean, you kind of.
We were adversaries. We were.
Yeah, we were.
You know how Jay says you need a nemesis to shoot against.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're the guy I always wanted to be.
And that was the thing, man. It's and I had an interview with Larry Tate, and Larry Tate became my adversary, my nemesis, but purely fun. It wasn't really, but still, we're all talk smack to each other, and just like you and I used to.
Yeah.
And bet dollar bills and all kinds of fun. But you just need that. You just need that little kick in the ass to get ready for a match.
The competition.
Right, because at some point you get like to the point that we are now, where I was having this conversation with, I think with Dwayne Dragoo, where I said, you show up at nationals, you're pretty much going to be top 30, which is a pretty decent finish. Even if you have a bad nationals, you're still going to be pretty decent, right? But at some point, you just need that competition. You just need somebody to beat. It doesn't matter if you're 30th, as long as your buddy or your adversary is 31st. You know what I mean? At least you walk away with a win.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a big thing, man. It's bigger than most people give it credit for. To have something to, because you know how it is nowadays. It's hard to get ready for a match, right? It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's kind of like, oh man, we're gonna go do another one. And the problem that we have now is we're expected to do well. Back then, you just went and you hoped to do well, but now we're kind of expected to do well. I mean, you're the you're the U.S. rifle team win coach, right?
Yeah.
And so am I. And we're also on Team Lapua, right? That little logo right there on your shirt kind of
Yeah.
requires that you shoot well. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does.
Or at least it's expected by the newer shooters, right? Because whether you like it or not, we have a target on our backs, and pretty much everybody on the U.S. rifle team has a target on their back by somebody. Because all they got to do is, as long as they pass you, they're like, well, I beat a member
Yep.
of the U.S. rifle team. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? And that's just, it changes everything. It changes.
Yeah. I've had people come up and tell me that.
I know.
I can't believe it. I beat you, and I always tell them you should set your sights a little higher.
But I mean, it's I've had it happen too. I mean, a lot of times,
Oh yeah, I've seen you on YouTube, and I finally beat Eric Cortina.
Yeah, and I'm like, I used to do a lot of club shoots, and I don't anymore. But that happened a lot of clubs. Which
Yeah.
when I shoot club shoots, I'd go and that's when you bring your
That's
test
when you're working
loads,
on loads.
or you testing something or a new barrel or whatever. And the guys that are trying to win or trying to, I understand they're trying to get better, and they have their own adversaries, right? Like, well, if I can beat that guy, you know what I mean? And then you show up with a test load that didn't work out, and they beat you. They just come up to you like, I beat you, and I mean, that's fine, but they need to understand that you need to go to the big matches and beat.
Yeah. Well, if it gives them confidence to do that, then all the better.
Yeah, like I said, it's fine. It's back to they gotta have something to aim for. You know what I mean? And back to what I was saying earlier, that we have a target on our backs just being on the U.S. rifle team. Because it's just it's just how things work. But anyway, I mean, I remember doing that too. I'm like, when I was coming up in the F class world, I wanted to be X or that or this guy or the other. So back in 2010, I remember showing up to Raton, to the Spirit of America match, and all of a sudden I'm seeing Larry Bartholomew, and seeing that's back when Ballard was still shooting.
Sure. Yeah.
And I see all these people that I've read about, and it was a big eye-opening experience for me, because I got to see them. I got to beat some of them, and then I started to realize, you know what? I can do this. You know what I mean? I used to think, oh, those guys are superstars. I can't ever get close to them. And it's not until you go shoot against them that you realize, oh, okay, it's doable. I can do it. I just got to work a little bit harder, go to more matches, and then and then you're in the mix, before you know it.
Yeah. I think it was 2009 or so. All these guys came up to Lodi. Larry Bartholomew and, Danny Biggs, Jim Murphy, a busload full of them, literally a busload full of them. And I got schooled at the Midwest Palma like you wouldn't believe. But that's a learning experience. And I said, and I didn't beat any of them. I didn't beat any of them. And I said, man, you gotta, I need to step it up. But I did it during nationals. I did get to shoot with Ballard, and I learned quite a bit from him. Somewhat to do and not to do, but I was shooting 284 at about 3,000 feet a second.
Wow.
180s. And that was when I decided I need to start learning how to read wind. I'm not going to shoot my way through it.
So you were taking a typical approach of just if you shoot them fast enough, you don't need to read.
Oh yeah, hot rod it. Yeah. I couldn't, and I ended up that year. I remember I ended up 14th, which was by far the best finish I had ever done, and I was quite proud of that. And then I started thinking, yeah, 14th, that's not that good. You know, you can do better.
Yeah.
And
so when did you start going to Burger Nationals?
that would have been about 2014, I think.
Right. So you start traveling to again.
No, it was before that. It was 2013. It must have been.
So all of a sudden you start traveling to all these big matches, right?
Yeah.
What was the purpose? Like, did you at some point say, you know what, I'm just gonna, you know, because you had a goal to be high master, right? At what point?
Yeah.
Did you?
Well, I was by then, but
I understand, but you know that was so you met that goal, right? You achieved that goal, and then the next thing is like, you know what, I'm gonna start traveling. But what was the purpose? Did something change? Did you get more involved? What happened?
Yeah, I actually talked to my wife, and I take Wednesdays off. During the week. I only work 4 days a week.
What did you say? You're 1/5 retired?
Yeah, 1/5 retired. That's right. And you know, I told her, I said, I am not going to work as hard as I've done. I couldn't keep doing it anyway. It was, you know, I was really wearing myself to a nub, and I couldn't take it. So I slowed down considerably with work, and went out every Wednesday, and I would work on loads and practice. But you know, the idea going to, if you're from Wisconsin, and the idea of going to Phoenix in February is pretty appealing.
Yeah.
And then you get to shoot yet too. I'm all for that. Sign me up, and I've been going ever since.
Yeah. Yeah. So you decide you're gonna go do more F class. You're gonna, but I mean, all of a sudden your shooting improved. And when I say improved, I mean all of a sudden you're a top contender. You know what I mean? When did you win the Burger Nationals? What year?
15 and 18.
Yeah. So you were the first person ever to win it twice.
Right.
So in 2015, so 2-3 years you've been going. All of a sudden you win the Burger Nationals. What was that like?
That was a lot of fun. I amazed myself. But I had in 2014, I had without a shadow of a doubt the worst showing of all the high masters. I was on the bottom. I took a load that was very good at Lodi, and I know it sounds funny now, but I had real light neck tension with it. Drove down to Phoenix, and without knowing what I was doing and not knowing anything about an annealer and spring back, and I had the worst ammo. I was shooting 6 foot of vertical.
Wow.
And the sad part of it is that we tried out for the U.S. team.
Mm-hmm.
The end of that, if you recall.
You shot that ammo?
Yeah. And I had no other ammo. And I didn't know what the problem was at that time. I figured it out right shortly, but, you know, and I started shooting, and my coach said, I told him, I said, look, I got really bad ammo. This isn't going to work. And we shot maybe 5-6 rounds, and he said, have you been shooting like this all week? And I said, yeah, all week. And he said, well, this is a waste of time. Let's just move on. You're done.
Yeah.
You know, I figured, well, you know, Rick's gonna boot me. I would have booted me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he actually called me up and said, "I hope you're not thinking about quitting." And I said, "Well, I was. I think, you know, as bad as that worked." And he says, "Well, just give it another try, but don't bring that gun, you know." And okay, I won't. And I figured out what I was doing wrong. And the thing that was really bothering me the most was you shot so good up here at Lodi. I was winning everything that year. I didn't shoot a match. I didn't win and win big. And I took that down there, and it was just ugly.
Yeah. Well, same happened to me. You remember that rifle that shot that 1.25 inch group at 1,000 yards?
Yeah.
I took it to the tryouts, and I thought, come on. I don't even have to shoot. You know what I mean? This thing just shoots so well.
Right.
Same thing. My ammo. I decided to preseat my ammo, and I couldn't get it to shoot. I mean, it didn't shoot horrendous like yours, as bad as yours, but it still didn't shoot great the whole time. And like you said, I just couldn't make sense of it. Because I kept shooting 10 shot groups that were 4 inches, 10 shots at 1,000 yards. You know what I mean? With like about 2.5 inches of vertical, like outstanding, you know. And then I get over there and I can't hold the 10 ring.
Yeah.
And I remember after the tryout. See, the tryouts is when it really hits. Because when you're shooting individuals, you kind of, at least for me, it's like, well, it's okay, or it's not that bad, or it's bad, but I didn't feel as bad. It's when you go to do the tryout and you have freaking all these superstars lined up watching you. Well, they don't watch you shoot, but I mean, they're all there. And
Yeah,
they're all
exactly.
see your scores, and all of a sudden you start shooting, and all of a sudden that gun is not as good as it was. And so anyway, I go back to the house that night, and I'm sitting there having a drink, wondering what the heck is wrong with this thing. And then I got up and I went to go measure my ammo, and it was all over, just sitting depths were all over the place. So then I took a hammer and I pulled them out, not all the way, just enough to reseat them, and I reseated them. And
Yeah, I remember when you did that.
And I got a gold medal the next day for the first relay of the day, and I was like, oh, just so many things that we do. Traveling, people don't realize how traveling can. So really light neck tension. I got away from that now.
Me too.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Me either.
But it just shot so good.
Yeah. I sat there the whole week though. There were a lot of people that man, if I was shooting that bad, I would DNF, and I've never done that in my life. I hope I never have to. Obviously, if you're shooting one gun and it breaks, you got no choice. But I just made sure that all my 8s were going to be at 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock.
You're just working on the wind.
And work on the wind. And I really studied it hard. And it, that and a better setup with the gun.
So 2014, you have your worst showing ever, and
right.
You're pretty much thinking, I'm done. This is not for me, or whatever. Like, did you ever cross your mind to not only quit the U.S. team, or at least not even try out?
Well,
but quit shooting.
Not to quit shooting. I expected to get booted off the U.S. team.
Oh, okay.
Because it just, I had basically a no-show. I didn't even show up.
Yeah.
And Rick surprised me and called me, and I said, okay. And he said, but, you realize you shoot like that again, you're going to be gone. I said, well, I better get my stuff wired a little tighter. And which I did.
Yeah, so 2015, you come back and you win the thing.
Yeah, it was a little bit windy that year. I like the wind.
That's it. Yeah, see, that's interesting that you say that, because when we started this interview, you said you hated the wind.
I did.
So what? This is the thing that Now we got to the reason that I really want to talk to you, because, you are the head coach for the U.S. rifle team, right?
Yeah.
A person that, 10 years ago, hated the
Yep.
wind because you had
Right.
no idea what to do. So what took you from hating the wind to now being the coach for the U.S. rifle team, the head coach, the wind coach?
We were shooting the Midwest Palma one day, and that was still back in the days when Karen Liebertraut was shooting, and Earl was shooting. And I think I had them on either side of me. And Karen said to Earl, what flag are you looking at? What are you looking at out there? And he just kind of looked at her and he says, well, all of them. And he walked away, and I thought, well, you won't fart. You won't even tell your own wife. And I was eavesdropping, you know. And I had gotten to know Earl pretty well by then. And the day that we got done with the day, and I told him, I said, man, you won't even tell your own wife what you're looking at. And he said, I did. I told her I was looking at all the flags. And I don't understand. And he said, grab a couple beers and grab your chair and sit down. And we just sat down, and he talked to me about the wind and what was happening. And all of a sudden, it just kind of clicked. It hit me. And not that I didn't immediately get a lot better at reading wind, but I understood how I should read it and what I should look at. And once that happened, with a little bit of experience, I got quite a bit better at it.
It's totally different when you know what to look at, and you're still gonna make mistakes, but at least you see what caused the mistake, versus when you're just kind of looking at everything, but at the same time looking at nothing because you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
It's when they give you something to do. For example, if the example that I use all the time is if you're just out there and you say, how many people did you see that were wearing hats today? Oh, well, shit, I don't know. It's a lot, or a few, or you know what I mean. But if you ask a specific question, like how many people are wearing red hats, all of a sudden, like, oh, well, or green, or some color that's yellow or something. You know what I mean? Then you'll remember that. Or if you send somebody out there looking for a hat, it's if you just give them a specific something to look for, something to pinpoint their
How many people are wearing black and white helmets? Oh, just the zebras. There's three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, and that's the difference in wind reading, because now once you have something to look at or to look for, all of a sudden you focus on that, and you see it, and then you act on it, and then you kind of just go from there, and that's the switch that a lot of people are looking for. How do I find, from looking at everything to looking at, because Earl was looking at everything, he was correct, not that now, but he was looking at everything so he could find the one that was telling him what to look for.
What Lodi doesn't have anywhere near the kind of flags that, say, Ben Avery does. But he was explaining to me, he said, watch, the wind's going to be coming down the hill, and that flag's going to pick up first. And sure enough, it did. And he says, now it's coming through, and it's going to pick up at 600 here on this side. And sure enough, it did. And then it's going to down at 800 on the right-hand side, that flag's going to pick up. See, the wind is going through there. And he could predict when the flags were going to pick up before they did. And he was right. Mm-hmm. And I was dumbfounded by that. I guess I would pick a flag and try to shoot it. And I didn't understand why. And I didn't, I want to look at this one right here at 800 because it's close and I can see it good. And every range has its differences, but if you know anything about Lodi, the 800 to 1,000, that one doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. It's all downrange. So, but it's trying to get a big picture understanding of what the wind is doing. This is what I try to do every time, and not whether. And the wind is not necessarily just blowing straight line across parallel with the ground.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's coming down at an angle. So it's hitting the ground at a point and bouncing off of it. And it's got to go around berms. And in Raton, we got mountains that throw things around.
Right.
So there's always something. Up in Canada, there was kind of a little chute that went right to the river, you know, and the wind would really gust up through there. So you got to watch that. And it was only, depending on where you were on the range, it would burn through at a different spot. But you really had to watch it there. And as I'm sure you probably realize, those wind flags there are, you know, virtually unreadable up there. So you better be reading Mirage, and you better focus in the right spot.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, again, you and I and a lot of the people that, you know, there's a lot better wind readers than me, but I understand enough that I can look at the range and I can look at the flags, I can look at the Mirage, and I can decide which one's going to be more honest, you know? Because sometimes the Mirage is not honest, but typically it's more honest than flags, right? But every now and then you find those flags that are they're just telling you everything you need to know. And sometimes Mirage just goes away.
I actually rarely watch Mirage.
Yeah, and I rarely ever watch flags.
Right.
That's why you and I work well together. So
yeah.
When we coach on a team, you know, coach or, you know, Team Lapua, Borden Brooks, you're usually the head coach and I'm the back coach, and you're reading flags and I'm reading Mirage, and that's how you and I work together. And but yeah, it's where I shoot or where I learned how to shoot at Bayou in Houston, Texas. There's Mirage every day. Like every time, even when it's cold, there's Mirage.
A lot of good Mirage readers come out of Bayou or Florida.
Yeah, it's just Mirage is so true there, and that's the way it's gonna be. But so anyway, so Earl is the one that kind of showed you the initial ropes, right?
Yeah, he flipped the light switch.
Yeah. So 2015 comes around, and now you go back to Burger. same gun or different gun, or what did you bring?
It was the same rifle, I believe.
Just like you say, wire tight.
Yeah, yeah. I had a new barrel, all new everything, new brass, new. You know, the load really wasn't that different, other than I wasn't running loose neck tension.
Yeah, you fixed the issues. And so how did it go? I mean, tell me about Burger Nationals 2015. I mean, did you start slow or did you get out of front?
No, I started out in second place. I'm not sure who was above me. I think it might have been Keith Glasscock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the year Danny Biggs was right behind me. And Danny struggled on the last day. Keith struggled on the second day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't struggle.
So you weren't winning. You were just consistent, right?
Yeah.
Man, consistent does it most of the time.
Yeah. I think I won that by 2 points, which was actually a pretty big victory.
People don't realize how. So I don't know if you saw that test that I did between flame annealers and the amp annealer. And I did 10 shots and I alternated.
Yeah.
And I had one on the flame annealer drop down.
Yeah.
And people were saying, well, it's just one shot. I'm like, that's huge. Like,
that's the one.
That's you know, you shot for 3 days and you won by 2 points. It's such tiny margins that you win by.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think it was 18. Christine Harris was just 1 point behind me.
It's crazy. It's crazy how after so many 3 days of shooting, you win by 1 point.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of points to go through, and
In 2010, I lost the what is it? The Arizona. It was in Arizona. The Arizona State Palma Championship. We shot for 3 days, three palmas, and I lost by 1x. Not even a point, an X.
yeah, yeah.
Tough.
Well, there was a lot of that going on in that V2 tournament.
Oh, tell me about it.
That was something, boy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So 2015, you're back in it. You win the Burger Nationals. All of a sudden, you're back in it. I think at that point we had already started shooting together on the team, right?
Yeah,
Like 2015.
yeah.
So now we're together, and
Yeah, we won. I think that was the first year we won. That's the first year we won nationals.
I don't remember.
Maybe the first year we won Burger Southwest.
Possibly. So, and all of a sudden, we're on the team, and the original team, you called Steve Blair, because you were coming down to Burger and you didn't have a full team, and neither did we. And, you called, I think you came by yourself the first time. And you didn't have a team to shoot on, so you shot with us. And then I remember a day or two later, I called you up and I said, "Hey, you don't ever have a full team. We don't ever have a full team. Why don't we just combine the teams and we'll call it Lapua Brooks?"
Right.
And you're like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So that's and it was you and Pat Scully and me and Stephen Blair.
Yeah.
And that was the original four. And
I don't think Steve ever shot. It was shot with us once we got it assembled. He couldn't make it the following year.
But and of course we started building that team, right? And we started obviously working on it, working hard, and it just all of a sudden it just clicked, right? Just clicked. At least that's how I feel it happened.
Well, yeah, I think we probably worked out most of our ego issues before we ever even got a team going,
Yeah, and I think that was a big part of it, I stayed on as captain, and then we didn't have a coach, right? We were just like, we're just gonna coach whoever. And I remember one day you say, that's not how you coach, because I remember it was Steve Harp and I, and him and I were both laying down, and I said, well, let's try this where we both agree and then we shoot. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it was Gary. Gary, can't think of his last name. The key maker.
Yeah, okay, that's right. And then you said, that's not how you do it. I said, let me coach, and that's how you became the win coach.
Yeah, I don't quite remember it that way. I just sat behind you two and didn't say a word.
I know. Well, no, you did.
And you guys were arguing back and forth. That's two left. No, that's two right.
But anyway, so at some point you just became the coach, the win coach.
Yeah.
And the rest is history, right? So let's talk about the team now. Like you said, we worked out the ego issues, because we did. I mean, it's a big, I might call it a power struggle. I don't know if that's the right word, but everybody wants to, at least you and I both, right? We both have pretty big egos, I think.
Well, you have to be in order to be a good F-class shooter.
That's the thing, right?
You got to be a type A kind of person. It's just not for the me.
Well, so at some point you and I finally worked out, like, okay, this is how it's going to be. I was the captain, you became the coach, and then we just started winning. Once we figured out, and then we just decided, we're going to share everything. I'm the coach, you're the captain, and the shooters are shooters, and we shoot, and this, that, and the other, and um, we started winning, right? And then I decided, you know what, we should bring on more people, because remember back in the day, it was the thing where nobody wanted to have more than 4 shooters on the team, because everybody wanted to shoot.
Right, right.
And then at some point,
Well, I think I was telling you for a while that it's costing our team to have me shoot. And he said, yeah, but you got a good gun. I know, but good guns are actually not that hard. They're hard to come by, but
well, like I said, at some point we decided let's bring on more people, right?
yeah,
And our scores went up when we kept you away from the gun.
yes,
But not because of your lack of shooting ability, just because you were focusing better on the wind. I mean, you only had one job, just read the wind, right?
yeah,
And all the other guys, they were all shooters, and everybody was happy because everybody got to shoot and whatever. And then I decided, let's bring on more people, right? Because we could have up to 7, right?
yeah.
So 5 was the magic number, because you get to coach, and then the other 4 get to shoot. Everybody's happy. So then we bring on, I bring on
Jay and Todd.
Jay and Todd, Jay Christopherson, Todd Hendricks at the 2016 Nationals.
Yeah,
And-
that's probably the best thing you've ever done in your life. Never mind the kids. Never mind the YouTube channel. Never mind.
Well, I mean, but it didn't start there, right? Like you and I started with this team. I mean, I had my team, you had your team, and at some point we decided let's join forces. And then of course it was like, because you were the captain of the Brooks team and I was the captain of the Lapua team, and all of a sudden we're joining forces. Like, how do we handle this? Remember, there was even at some point like, is it Brooks Lapua or Lapua Brooks? Because we even had to have that discussion. But once we figured it all out and we said this is how it's going to be, then we start shooting. We start winning. We decided to bring on Jay and Todd, and they joined the team. And man, all of a sudden, we all start sharing everything, just load information, gun hand, everything. I mean, everything. And all of a sudden, things are great. I mean, we're winning everything there is to win. And of course, like everything, we lose some members, right? Like Steve Harp decided, he's gonna retire from F-Class. And that's when we brought on. Well, anyway, so it was only 6 of us, right? So still, we had room for one more. But then Steve Harp leaves, and then they decide, hey, you know what? Jay said, hey, there's this guy that we know, really good, like really hardworking guy. He does pretty good, but he shoots a 6.5 Creedmoor. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'll take your word. Yeah, I'll take your word that he's a good guy, and let's give him a try, but he won't be shooting a Creedmoor.
No, come to find out, he's a gunsmith anyway, so not too hard to plumb up another.
No, not him. I'm talking about David.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
David
right.
Christian came first. And
you're right.
we get Christian on board, and I said, okay, boys, you guys got to get him up to speed on everything. And I mean, now David's freaking super strong shooter too. You know what I mean? And then we bring on Jeremy. Same deal. It's like, Jeremy, this is what you're gonna do. Boom. So I think developing that system really helped the team. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, teams don't want to share their information because, yeah, you're a team for 2 days, but the other 3 days you're individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a fairly rare that you get a team that shares as much information as we do.
Yeah. I mean, we share everything. I mean, Pat, a few weeks ago, he sent me some groups, to get some feedback on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the national champion. But that's just how it is, right? He just wants, and I said, look, I think I would go with these. And he's like, yep, exactly what I was thinking. Thank you. I just needed some confirmation, just make sure you weren't seeing something different. But it's, so anyway, so the team's working great. Then we decide, well, I've been on the U.S. team, but and so were you and Pat. But now we decided to go for another round, and Bramley decided to take it a different direction as far as coaching
Right.
goes. And then he names you the head coach. How did that go about? Like, how did that? Tell me about when you found out. How did that go?
Uh, well, I asked Michelle the first go around because we had already had a fair amount of success on our individual team. For the 2018 go around, you need another coach, I'd be glad to help. And, unbeknownst to me, she already had her team picked. It was and a good one,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the way that went. So I was odd man out. I think Dan was standing right there when I had mentioned that. And he called me up and he said, I looked at, Dan, he puts a score to everything. And he said, I looked at all the coaches and you had the highest number by far, according to their parameters, whatever that was. And they assigned points for, winning whatever, different big matches.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you got more than twice as much as the next person. You want to be the head coach? I said, yeah.
Yeah, why not, right?
Right.
So back to the coaching on our team, on Team Lapua Brooks Borton. Most other teams are going out and trying to get one of the established coaches. And we just decided, well, we're just going to develop our own, which that was you. That was you.
Yeah.
It was like, look, we shoot, you coach, and whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there are still some other good win coaches out there that are largely untapped for whatever reason.
Right. Well, again, it's easy to, because I would have done it too if we would have had the option, right? Just go get one of the established coaches, like Trudy, Michelle, Nancy. You get one of those, you're already most of the way there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we didn't have that option, so we just decided to develop our own coach.
Well,
which was you.
Without a necessity, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're now you're one of those established coaches with successful career. I don't know if career is the right word, but
Yeah.
So anyway, now you're on the U.S. team. You're the head coach. Hopefully, at some point, we're gonna go shoot that match, the World Championship.
It would be nice.
So, what's next? Like, what's your what's next for you? Like, you go to the Worlds. You went to the 2017 Worlds. You did pretty well. You got 12th, right? 12th.
Yeah.
So you're still. You won the Burger National.
And I got cone-handed pretty hard.
You got what?
Cone-handed. That was with the walking spotter. You know that story.
Oh no, I think I've heard it. What's the story?
You've heard that. You want me to tell it?
Well, yeah. They haven't heard it.
Okay. I was parafiring with a Canadian old timer. And the guy had a Untitled rifle scope, 8 power, scratched up lenses, and I think a 30-06 rifle. I'm not kidding. I helped him up with his. He was so old. I helped him up with his rests and whatnot. He shot a 4 out the right, and I know exactly what happened. I shot a 5. I could see plainly with an 80 power March. You can see a little bit better than an 8 power Untitled.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 5, and I was hoping he would just agree and say, "Yeah, it's obviously a 5." and let's move on. Well, you know how they don't want to. She had it marked as a 4, but she had moved the spotting disc into the 5. Okay. Well, I said, I guess I have to challenge this. So I challenged a shot, and it comes back down, and she moves it to the middle of the 4 ring.
Oh, so
At this point,
it's going farther away.
yeah, she moved the spotter from the original spot to the middle of the 4 ring because she didn't want to get, they get gigged for making a mistake down there, and she didn't want that to happen. So at this point, I know I'm doomed. There's zero chance I'm going to win this argument. There's no way I can get that toothpaste back into that tube, right? I'm ready to just move on. I said, don't worry about it. And he goes ballistic. He says, she moved the spotter. Yeah, I know, but it's not gonna, And the gal behind the line, the line officer, she says, what do you mean she moved the spotter? She didn't have binoculars. They said, we're challenging target 46, whatever it was. And it goes back down and she moves it again. She's looking at it through binoculars this time. She can see that it moved. She said, oh my God, she moved the spotter. And this whole time I'm thinking, man, no good's going to come of this, right? And there's no way I'm going to get that change from a 4 to a 5. It's impossible. But they argue back and forth, and 3 or 4 times she pulls it down. And finally the gal says, and she keeps moving the spotting disc every single time. And she says, what do you want to do? And I said, I already said I would take the 4. So the old guy who was scoring for me wrote down a 4 right next to the 4 that I just did not shoot. So I got 2 4s for the price of a 5.
I see what happened now. So
Yeah.
when the first 4 came up, he wrote down a 4. Right?
Yeah.
Then you challenged that.
Yeah.
And you lost the challenge. So he puts down another 4.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. And we get, I didn't take either of my sighters. And, I'm on shot 19. He says, you're out. I said, no, I'm not. I got a reloading block with all my ammo sitting right here. And I said, I got 1 round left. He said, no, you're out. And, I argued with him, but how do you challenge a shot that where he wrote down the wrong number and I didn't even know it. This was on shot 13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he did that. How could I have even challenged that he had written 2 4s down?
Yeah, because he's over there writing stuff.
And I tried explaining that to him, and they said, did you challenge it? Well, it was impossible for me to know it. And I just, but those 2 points were the difference between a medal and not.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It wouldn't have been the one I needed.
Or the one you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rod Davis. Oh my God, he freaking lit it on. I was lucky enough to end 5th at the Worlds.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. You look at the scores afterwards, and you're like, all right, how far off was I? What could I have done to win this thing? I think he beat me by 8 or 10 points.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, there was nothing I could have done. So.
You're right. Yeah.
At least that made me feel good, because I'm like, there's no way I could have made up 8 points. Where? I don't, no.
Yeah, you didn't screw up that bad.
No, he freaking just lit it on fire. But, yeah, it's just the things that happen, right? That can, like you said, those 2 points, and you probably lost more than 2 just from being upset there, laying there. You know what I mean?
No, I only lost 2 on that.
Well, I'm talking about.
I would have cleaned that relay.
I'm talking about the delay and all that. So, whatever.
It didn't help later on though either. I think because I knew, it's one of those things. It's a big conspiracy. It's all going against you,
Oh yeah.
There's just,
So, 2018, you win the Burger Nationals again.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a year that we didn't shoot the third day because it was too windy, remember?
yeah, that's the day I was going to come back. I was orchestrating
Yeah.
the biggest comeback in history, and
Yeah. A lot of people were.
yeah, talk about conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about Tater, I was sitting in his camper the whole time, Larry Tate,
Hmm.
and praying for the wind to keep up. Let it blow, let it blow.
Yeah, because you knew
You
they
can
would
ask him,
call
like,
it.
yeah, he'll remember that.
So what's next, Sebold? Like, where do you go from here? Talk about people that you have brought onto the game, like Bill Kaloji. I remember 2016, I think. I met him. He came with you to the. He was shooting, I think, his first nationals, and I met him because he was sitting there eating dinner with us, and I remember, man, he was so green, but he was so hopeful. He was so happy, just so excited, and fast forward, what, 5 years, 4 years, and he wins the V2 finale, and
Yeah.
I mean, he's come up pretty quick.
Yeah. Yes, he has.
And man, at the nationals, I think I got like top 5 or something. I mean, he's shooting really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim Bower's another one.
Yeah.
He was Mr. 20 Questions when he first started. Of course, he started late in life.
Uh-huh.
Um, I see, here, do it this way. Here's your load. Here's your, we got them all set up, and he's gone on from there quite a bit. That was many years ago, but
So back to your 2014 performance. You're telling me that a good wind reader with a bad gun can win?
that's what I'm telling you. I don't care who you were, you weren't going to win with that broomstick.
Well, that's
That
just a
was-
common misconception.
That was dreadful. No, when you said that, I watched that on your video, and I said, I know exactly what Eric's talking about, because I can tell you sometimes after the first string, it's like, this is going to be a long match.
Yeah. Just know. You just know. And sometimes, as you also know, you shoot a match or you shoot down there, you shoot it clean, and you thought, wow, that was fairly easy. And then it turns out you were the only one that cleaned it.
Yeah,
That's when you know you're going to have a good week, because you're like, oh, I got a hang of this.
Yeah.
I know what I'm looking at, and nobody else is. And then you just kind of jump ahead.
it was 2019. I was shooting in Nationals at Raton. That was at Raton, wasn't it?
When?
19.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Brian Bowling won.
Yep, right on.
I won a relay at 600. I shot 220X to start with. And then that gun I was shooting kind of fell apart, which was a bad sign. I had brought 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up with 7 gold medals on it. That, but I won 1 or 2 relays when we got back to 1,000. I had switched guns. I wasn't going to shoot. I was going to save that one, and I don't know. I guess it was shooting very well. But then the second day, you get over to position 6, and you got that wind that Raton can be known for.
Yeah, you're on the low end where the big berms with snow.
Yeah. It's coming off the mountain and twizzling around down there. And they just beat me up badly. So after that, on the third day, I think I only dropped 2 points on the third day, and we didn't shot 40 shots,
Mm-hmm.
1 on each, shot a 199, but my heart was already not into it.
Yeah. When that happens, you know what I mean. I know exactly. It's you just know, like this is not gonna go well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was with a gun that was shooting well. But I'll tell you, I couldn't read that one. I don't think anybody could have shot it.
So you won the Burger Nationals once, but never the Nationals. You came in second.
Right. Second was the highest. I've been leading it a couple of times, but
Is it? Do you think it's harder to win the Nationals, or is it just no different other than? Because I mean, the same crowd is there, right?
yeah, I don't think there's a lot of difference. And there is. I don't care who you are, and I think anybody that tells you otherwise is, misinformed. There's some luck involved in winning it. Obviously, you're prepared, and obviously you're gun shooting good, but so are the next 20 guys down the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're winning by one. So, or X's. It gets so tight now. You get a better puller maybe than somebody else, or your liner 10 is their 9. You know what I mean? And it's a quarter of an inch that separates a hero from a zero.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 2017 Lodi, I shot the national record was a 200 with 17, and I shot a 200 with 16, and 2 shots were as close as you can be to the X ring without hitting it.
Yeah,
an eighth of an inch, I would have tied the national record, and if for both of them, I would have beat it. But it's just so. That's just how cookie crumbles, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Nationals or Worlds? Which one would you rather win?
Worlds.
Yeah, it's so incredibly hard to win that too, right? The Worlds. It's just so hard because.
Well, it's hard to even shoot it.
I was gonna say it's just so hard because for one, more likely you're going to a range that you've never shot at or you don't have much experience in, and number two, you're pair firing. Pretty much outside the United States, you're going to be pair firing, which we never do here, right? And then, oftentimes you get paired up with people you can't even understand from countries that don't speak your language, and there's that communication issues, and there's just so many things that you got to deal with. And then once you get through all that, then you got to lay down and put on your best performance ever for 3 straight days.
Yep. It's and it's a different setup. Different target. Not that doesn't affect me that much, I don't think, but there's also a lot of pressure. As much pressure as can possibly be put on you.
Yeah. Well, that's for sure. Well, man, I appreciate this conversation. I know a lot of people, they just don't know what we go through, or someone like you that 2014 had your worst performance ever. In 2015, you win the Burger Nationals. It's I mean, it's just you just got to stick with it, and you got to show up. That's the main thing.
Well, it's you can't get down on yourself for shooting bad. It happens to everybody. I'm sure you've shot bad. I've shot bad. Every once in a while I shoot good.
Yeah.
People remember the times you shoot good. They don't remember. I have to tell them about 2014. People don't remember that. I do. It's burned into my brain.
Well, Jay Christopherson.
Yeah.
He won it in 2020.
Yeah.
The Burger Nationals. And in 2015, he was last place.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what I need to do. I have never done that. That seems to be the
secret.
Secret.
You take last this February.
Yeah. Right.
Speaking speaking of Jay, I don't understand why he doesn't win every single time. I actually saw him shoot at 1,000 yards. I was coaching him it was tryouts for the U.S. team, and there wasn't a lot of wind, so it wasn't that difficult. But I got him centered up and a pinwheel X, and I gave him the same call 4 times in a row, and he blew out the spotter 4 times in a row. And it was Georgia Damsky spotters, the real flexible ones that are, you have to hit them perfect in order to blow them out. And I haven't seen 4 of those ever blown out in my life, other than, I've only done it twice, and once each, they're very hard to blow out. And he put 5 rounds into well inside of a 1/4 of an inch at 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And man, with a gun like that, why don't you win every time?
That's because barrels wear out, and there's a lot of good guns on the line.
My guess is that barrel is not worn out. I bet you he's got that hanging there somewhere.
Well, that's probably his world's barrel.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that happens, right? When you encounter a barrel like that, you pull it off and save it for the really good matches,
Right.
But anyway, so, all right, now you get to nominate someone. Who do you think I should contact to do an interview like this? Who would you like to see an interview with?
Jay. Did you do Todd already?
I've done Todd and Jay.
Todd and Jay. Jay did do Pat, but he won.
Yeah, Pat would be a good one. But for you, someone you would say, you know what, I'd like to see this. I'd like to hear the story.
Have you interviewed Speedy? I know you did a.
Yeah, I'm gonna do more with him. There's been a couple of people that have suggested him. So, someone else.
You put me on the spot. You should have asked me that earlier. I could have had time to think about it.
Well, that's the beauty.
How about Jim Murphy?
He's been nominated already. And he's
Danny?
Danny Biggs?
Yeah.
All right, he hasn't been.
Shiraz? Shiraz would be a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna do Shiraz. Okay, so Shiraz, and then we'll I'm sure Murphy would nominate. So I've contacted Danny not Danny, but Larry Bartholomew, because man, he's one of the grandfathers of the sport.
Well, he's in your backyard too.
No, he's in Texas, but I mean he's 10 hours away.
Yeah. I guess it's a pretty big state.
I gotta take an airplane to go visit him. But yeah, I mean those guys, Team Burger, man, they when we started, you remember that. It was Team Burger's gonna win, and who's gonna get second?
Yep. They were unbeatable.
Yeah. I remember Larry Tate used to say that the only way we're gonna beat Team Burger is if we added the 100-yard dash to the team match. Because their average age was like 80. It still is. But anyway, yeah, Shiraz, I'm gonna contact Shiraz. I think he's gonna be a good one. But anyway, all right, Sebold, man, I appreciate it, and I will see you in a few weeks.
Yeah.
See you down in Phoenix in a few weeks.
All right, man.
All right, man. Thank you. Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tonight I'm feeling me, gonna make an ugly scene. Tonight